Is Royal Caribbean changing the future of cruising once again? Because today, Royal Caribbean Group officially announced a brand new ship class called Discovery Class. And while a lot of people are understandably excited just because it's new, I think the bigger conversation is what this actually signals long term. All right, let's get into it. Good morning, everyone. Literally just woke up hearing about this. Royal Caribbean and Michael Bailey, who, if you don't know, is the Royal Caribbean CEO, they posted on Facebook and also on the Press Center website that we have a new class of ships. Two ships are confirmed and ordered so far with options for more. It seems like we may have four additional ships that can be built. And the first ship is set to debut in 2029. The second ship is expected sometime around 2031 or 2032. I saw two different years when I was researching this, but we'll give it that range, which very normal this early in the process. Ranges are typical and also sometimes things happen. So it can absolutely be a flexible time range at this point. I mean, good example is Utopia of the Seas inaugural sailing was early, Star of the Seas sailed late. Things can just move around. So what really caught my attention, though, is where the ships are being built. Discovery class will be constructed in France, and that choice is not accidental. This is the same shipyard Royal Caribbean has trusted for decades. They've worked together on 21 ships so far. Now, I'm not going to try and pronounce this French company. Fun fact, I've been a singer for a long time, and my favorite language to sing in is French, but I do not speak French. Regardless, they built the original Sovereign class ships back in the 1980s. They've built multiple Oasis class ships, including Harmony of the Seas, and they're also behind the Celebrity Edge series. This is really interesting when you think about it. So, the very first ship from Royal Caribbean, as some of you may know, was the Song of Norway. This is the OG ship. But Sovereign was the first of the Seas ship when the company did restructure. This is 1988 that we're talking about, right? So Sovereign included, of course, the Sovereign of the Seas, but it had the Monarch and the Majesty. So back then, these were the largest modern cruise ships of their time. With Oasis class, again, similar theme, biggest ships of their time. But this also isn't the only newer ships that they're working on. They're also doing Oasis class ship number 7 and the Celebrity Excite. They did work on Celebrity Cruise Edge series, which is Celebrity's latest class of ships, and quite frankly, my favorite of theirs. I'm going on ascent soon, and I love the Beyond. But this news alone tells me that Discovery class, it's not a side project, it's not a test ship. This is going to be a new path. What's also interesting about this shipyard is that they're not just known for building massive cruise ships, they're also leaders in the environmental performance, advanced ship design, and even offshore wind infrastructure. So, while Royal hasn't announced any technical details yet, I'd be shocked if Discovery class didn't introduce new sustainability or efficiency features. I mean, that kind of innovation is exactly what this yard is known for. So, now I think a lot of people are excited about this new class of ship because simply it's new. And that makes sense, right? We love new and shiny things. Royal is often innovating, so there's always something new and shiny, but what excites me is something slightly different. I'm excited about the possibility that these ships could be smaller. This has been a desire from Royal Caribbean lovers for quite a while. We have gone above and beyond in terms of innovation, and for the cruise line, that has meant the biggest ships possible. We're talking Icon, Star, and the upcoming Legend. I mean, even Utopia, despite it being smaller than those ones, is still an Oasis class ship that is massive. They just keep outdoing themselves. That's what it is. And I want to be really clear here, smaller doesn't mean worse. It doesn't mean budget. It can actually just mean being more thoughtful, more intentional, more focused on where you're going instead of how many people you can fit.
To be clear, the idea that Discovery class could be smaller isn't brand new. That's been the expectation for a while based off of earnings calls and conversations and whatnot. But what's interesting now is how strongly today's announcement seems to reinforce this direction. And also, the question for this video really is, how small are we going to go? Are we going grandeur size, or are we going like freedom independence size?
And the press release actually kind of supports this theory because here's a snippet of what was said. The Discovery class introduces a bold new concept that puts our guests at the center of it all. As someone with a marketing degree, I like the wording here, but here's my theory, or at least my hope. Maybe I'm just trying to convince myself, but center of it all. It just feels like they don't want to say it's going to be smaller, but hear the rest. It will deliver extraordinary, one of a kind experiences. And then they kind of go on to say, like cutting edge, delightful surprises, detailed craftsmanship, all of that. And then they close it out with all while visiting truly breathtaking destinations. At a top level glance, kind of just reads like, oh, yeah, of course, cruise ships sail all over the world. Absolutely, they're going to mention that. Sounds like a generic kind of statement about new cruises, but theory. Sometimes and often seen with other cruise ships and cruise lines, when they really focus on destination versus ship, kind of lends itself to the possibility of this being more of a destination focused experience versus a ship focused experience. And that's not to say that the ship won't be good, absolutely not what I'm saying, but ship focused typically represents bigger ships, whereas the destination focused wording can lend itself more to smaller ships. It's kind of just a trend we see in the industry. So obviously, this is just me thinking out loud. And again, maybe I'm just getting my hopes up because a lot of us have been wanting this. So maybe a little bit of bias. But think about it. Why would they want to try and go bigger than Icon or Legend while they're still pushing those ships, right? It would be like if they released Icon at the same time as Oasis. It wouldn't really work in my opinion because people would just forget one or the other, and of course, Icon's gonna be bigger and whatnot. If these ships were gonna be massive, I honestly think we'd already be hearing about it and they'd be emphasizing it. What do y'all think? Do you agree that this may be a smaller class of ship? Do you think they're going to be going above and beyond again? Comment down below what you're thinking and what you're hoping for. By the way, if you really love to talk about cruising, you might enjoy joining the Patreon or the YouTube members community. This is a space for the cruise lovers where I also share behind the scenes content and we get talking about all things cruising and sharing ideas. Also, this year, y'all are going to help me plan my upcoming cruises. So, if you want to support the channel while also getting extra perks such as early video access and live streams, then make sure to join. So, this all leads to the bigger question for me: what does Discovery Class mean for Royal Caribbean's future? Are we shifting away from bigger and bigger ships, or are we just adding another lane? Personally, I don't think Royal is done quite yet building big ships. Icon and Oasis classes, they're not going anywhere, but I do think Discovery class could be Royal expanding their portfolio instead of competing with themselves. They're constantly trying to outdo themselves, and when you try and do that, it's very ambitious. You're in competition with yourself. I have friends who've recently sailed to Coco Cay, and they're pretty new to the cruise scene, but every single one of them told me like, "Yeah, we got off our mid-sized ship and I just see this huge shadow and I look up and it's like, oh my goodness, I mean, how do you go bigger than that? It just doesn't even feel reasonable at this point. Anyways, this might be an opportunity to bring in new cruisers who feel overwhelmed by these big ships, while also welcoming back more traditional cruisers who never really fell into the mood towards bigger and busier ships. I love smaller ships because I feel like I can recognize more people, and I don't know, there's something like that I just like about it. Feels more personal. And also, I have a lot of people who are like, I'm too scared to go on those bigger ships. So it lends itself to that. If Royal can let mega ships and smaller, more experiential ships coexist, it's going to be a really smart strategy. Icon and Oasis can continue to be about the wow factor and the scale, while Discovery Class can focus on the immersion, the design, and destinations. Instead of choosing one direction, you get both. Win win. Another thing too is that a lot of people are noticing, how do I word this? A focus in upkeep and renovation for the newer, bigger ships in comparison to the smaller, older ships. Interpret that how you will. So I like the idea of a modern, smaller ship. I hope it gets a lot of love. I love the current smaller ships because of the theme and the nostalgic original Royal Caribbean vibe. Like that's my childhood right there. So I really do hope they keep some of that style. And that's why I feel like Discovery Class is going to be all about options. Not a new philosophy, it's just a new ship. This episode might age very interestingly as we receive new information, but if you want to stay updated on this, be sure to check out thelifeofacruiser.com because I will be writing a post very shortly after this video with all of the updates about this as we progress and learn more. I'm genuinely curious about what you guys think. Do you see Discovery Class as a shift in direction, a new lane entirely, or just a callback to the kind of cruising you may miss? And do you want Royal to keep pushing bigger is better, or do you feel like it's smart to go smaller? Let me know your thoughts and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next video. Bon voyage!